ready, but we can't do it without you. Get your questions together and give us a call at 1-800-944-4664. The special 1-hour Kentucky Afield Fall Hunting Call-In Show starts right now.
Such a pretty fish.
Beautiful.
This pond is plumb loaded with frogs.
They're everywhere in here. Yeah, this is a good fish right here. Really good fish.
Come here, girl.
Yeah, boy. That's a big rabbit.
Nice job. Yes! Yes! My first musket. Mercy Leo!
Yeah, look at it. It's a keeper.
Here it goes. Boom!
Wow, that happened fast.
Hello and welcome to Kentucky Afield. I'm your host, Chad Miles. Hey, fall is here and this is one of my favorite times of year to talk about the topic, hunting. It's our fall call-in show for all about hunting, and we have 3 guests here to discuss all the topics that you may want to talk about. Deer and Elk Program Coordinator Gabe Jenkins, Small Game Program Coordinator John Morgan, and Conservation Officer Jared Irvin. We've already got several questions coming in via Facebook, Instagram, and we're going to get right to it. Hey, is this your all's favorite time of year?
Absolutely, it is mine.
Hey, the seasons are changing, the acorns are falling. This is far and away my favorite time to be in the state of Kentucky. Got football season, college basketball around the corner, hunting, fishing. This is the time of year right here. But right now we're going to talk about hunting. And we're getting all kinds of questions here. And the very first question is from Rick Baker, and this is a Facebook question. Rick wants to know, he said he has an albino doe on his family farm, and he wants to know if it would be better off for his herd genetics to remove that doe from the herd.
So that's a recessive trait. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if he wants to take that deer, by all means, go ahead. But it's not, not something he has to take. So it's entirely up to him.
Okay, so no real benefit one way or another?
Nope.
Okay. Another question here via Facebook. Eric Bentley wants to know, how far from bait or a feeder does he need to be to harvest a turkey in the fall?
So it's obviously illegal to hunt turkeys over bait, but we don't have a set distance. So basically anything that's going to be a zone of influence, if those turkeys are influenced by the bait that you put out and you're hunting, then it's illegal.
Okay. And it's interesting because in the fall time, baiting for deer is legal, but you got to be very cautious to not be hunting for deer and take a turkey that comes by if it's being influenced by bait. We got another Facebook question. If you do want to call us on the phone, you can reach us at 1-800-944-4664. We have a Facebook question from Joseph. He wants to know if he buys a bonus deer tag to hunt in Zone 1, can he use them for firearm season or just for archery?
So he can use that tag for any season, whether that's firearms, muzzleloader, or archery. It's good for an additional 2 deer, so he gets his 4 in his statewide, then 2 additional more.
That's interesting. You said 4 because things have changed a little bit over the past few years. Now, when you buy your statewide permit or your sportsman's permit, what do you get with that as it pertains to deer?
So you get your hunting license and then your statewide deer permit that allows for 4 deer. Of those 4, it can be 1 antler deer and 3 antlerless, or all 4 antlerless deer. And if you want to take more, you have to buy that additional deer permit. Granted, you need to look at the zones and see what the limit is in every one of the zones. So that's the biggest thing, is it's zone specific.
And several years ago, we quit calling that bonus antlerless because when you get those 4 tags, if it's legal in the zone you're hunting, you can take 4 does, and then when you buy your bonus tag, it is now your buck tag, correct?
Correct. So the biggest thing is 1 buck. It doesn't matter if it comes on your statewide or any of your additional deer.
Okay. Rick Hayes it's a Facebook question. Are you required to have a hunting license to let beagles run or train in the field?
Okay, so that's a good question. I get that a lot, but you are actually required to have a hunting license to run your dogs, whether you're in season or out of season. If you're running your dogs, you do have to have a hunting license.
Just hearing about people talking about running beagles and rabbit hunting gets me really excited. It's one of my absolute favorite things in the world to do, so I can't wait to be out there running beagles myself. Charles Thompson, Facebook question, what do I need to do for the November bow hunt on Taylorsville Lake State Park? So I guess they're wanting to take part in that. How do they do that?
So you'll need to contact the state park. You can visit or you can call them and they'll give you all the specifics on that hunt.
Okay. So is that not put on by us?
Nope, that's all by state park. So you can, like I said, you can get on their website, call them, but visit or call.
Now, do we have a quota hunt that's done on that area as well?
So state parks offers a variety of hunts. Some of them are quota hunts that are administered by us through our drawing in September, and then they have some additional hunts that they administer themselves. And they're a first come, first served basis. You can get on the Department of Parks website and it'll list all the areas that have a hunt and then how to sign up for them when those dates are.
Okay, fantastic. Matt, this is a Facebook question. He's heard that you can still have and hunt with a muzzleloader if you're a convicted felon. We've had this question in the past. Is this true?
Sure, I get that question a lot too. And basically, to answer your question, a muzzleloader is considered a firearm. There you need to look at your conviction dates, but if you're not allowed to have a firearm, then you're not allowed to have a muzzleloader.
Okay, all right. Justin Creech, a Facebook question, wants to know if the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife manage regulations for LBL, and is there a chance of going back to the bonus buck tags there?
So we advise LBL, but they set their own regulations. So it's entirely up to them. We work with them; they're a partner, but they set them based off of their knowledge and their research.
A lot of questions people ask about a bonus buck. I mean, there's a lot of people that harvest that buck and they see a really, really big deer and they're like, man, what are the chances we can get a bonus buck? Has there been any conversation about bonus buck?
No, not really. You know, we're able to manage the resource with one buck. It's really a testament of the herd that we have now. Is, you know, if you want to shoot a younger, smaller antlered buck, that's okay. Or if you want to be that one who holds out for a large antlered, you know, real big quality deer, that's all right as well. You know, we want people to be happy. A trophy is an eye in the beholder. So, you know, we want to try to offer that opportunity where we can.
And it's interesting, the overall trend for the states surrounding us and throughout the country has been moving to one buck or fewer bucks harvested.
Correct.
Right?
Yep. Like Tennessee is an example where they had a lot of bucks you could take, and they've reduced that. West Virginia's done that as well. So, I mean, I think they're seeing that one buck limit really is a testament of the quality that we have.
Mm-hmm. So the trend's probably not something that's going to be happening. Facebook, Kevin Wilson, Facebook question. Can you tell us about a tuberculosis hunt has been found in deer lately? Tuberculosis, I'm not sure, wants to know about tuberculosis in deer. Has that been found lately?
Well, good question. So this is all coming out of the state of Michigan. This has happened 2 years in a row now where Michigan has pushed tuberculosis in white-tailed deer. And it's caught on all across the country, and everybody thinks that it's happening in their state. And we've not been alone from that, is that people think that we found TB in deer. That is not the case here in Kentucky. We've never found TB in our deer herd. We don't have it. It's all coming out of Michigan in that central to northern part of the lower peninsula of Michigan. So, you know, if you're a hunter up there, you need to be concerned about it, but in Kentucky, it's not a concern whatsoever.
If you come across a deer that looks like it's sick, dead, and you can't look at it and say it's either beside the road or has a wound that you can tell is the cause of death, regardless of what we found, you need to report that, right?
Absolutely. So there's a very easy mechanism you can report when you find a sick or dying deer on our website. If you go to our website, fw.ky.gov, right on the main page, report your sick or dying deer. A couple clicks, a little bit of information, that lets us know. If it's a sick deer that's acting abnormal, please call us. Call our 800 number, call your local officer, your local biologist. We need to know about that. Try to get that animal and get it tested to see what's going on.
All right. Derek Henson, a Facebook question. Is there a set schedule for fields being mowed on WMAs? John,
I'll take the habitat question. It sounds small game-ish, so we'll take that one. Not really. You know, personally, I'm not a big fan of mowing, to be perfectly honest. As a small game manager, we prefer some other tools to manage that habitat, whether it be fire or disking or herbicide to change that vegetative community. So we see a lot of stagnation in the plant community. You'll see a lot of goldenrod, for example. When you get an older field, mowing it just perpetuates goldenrod. That's not a real diverse plant mix that we're looking for anyway. Hunters certainly appreciate it. Number one, they can get to their deer stand without getting their pants wet. Small game hunters do appreciate it because you can see the rabbit occasionally. But if you think about the pressure that we see from a small game standpoint on some of our WMAs, it's extremely high, particularly with some of our rabbit hunters. So we actually want to make it challenging to give more opportunity for more people for a longer period of time. And another issue that drives some of the mowing or management of the areas is obviously the manpower. We're facing tough times, and we're seeing a reduction in particularly our seasonal workforce. So you're going to see less active management on some of our areas as we have less people out there working the ground. So, some of that unfortunately is something we might see a little bit more in the future until we see some budget enhancements.
Well, and the good thing too, when you mow it makes it a little bit harder for small game to hide.
Absolutely. If it's easier for us, it's easier for predators, right?
If you've got coyotes and hawks and owls and all that type of stuff, it's also going to be easier pickings for the predators as well. Yep. Matthew Gibson from Shelby County wants to know if he can bring a .22 long rifle with him and squirrel hunt while he's in a deer stand.
Yes, absolutely. There's nothing to keep you from doing that. Bring your .22 and shoot squirrels, of course, as long as squirrel season's in, you're good to go.
And squirrel season is in except for a small window during gun season, right?
Correct.
Okay. Hunter Pelly, a Facebook question. After harvesting a deer, wants to know how he can get that deer tested for CWD. Now, CWD is an acronym for chronic wasting disease. We do not have chronic wasting disease in the state of Kentucky right now. But if he wanted to get a deer tested for CWD, is there a mechanism to do that here in Kentucky?
So a couple different things. If you're here in Kentucky, you can contact us. We have a targeted approach on how we get our samples. If we need it from a county, we'd be glad to try to test it. If we don't, what we would do is tell you you can have it tested individually at a couple different labs in the state, put you in contact with that. If you're outside the state somewhere else and hunting in a CWD area, you should be able to go to that state agency and get it tested. Biggest thing I can tell you and the readers and everybody listening tonight, if you're interested in about chronic wasting disease, we're going to do a show on that on November the 2nd about the disease, what the agency's done, what we're doing, proactive steps. So tune in a couple weeks and we can learn more about the disease.
Very good. So in 2 weeks, November the 2nd, we're going to have a half-hour show dedicated 100% to more education on chronic wasting disease. So if this is a topic that interests you, make sure you tune in for that. Next question, Instagram question from Gold Rush Kennels. Wants to know if there's a difference in buck and doe droppings. I guess they're talking about deer, but they could be talking about,
We can talk both. We can talk rabbits, buck and does, could be rabbits. They got kennels. I mean, I don't know deer. We don't have any deer dogs, so maybe it's a rabbit question. Well, I'll take the rabbit question side.
It is a kennel question, so we think it could be a bucks and does.
It's possible. Bucks and does of rabbits, which is common vernacular for our rabbit hunters out there. No, there's not any difference. Out there in the field, a rabbit pile is a rabbit pile. Interesting question, but no, I think we hear that with deer. There actually is a difference in turkeys, at least the shape of the dropping is one of the species that you can tell the difference, but generally speaking, with most of our herbivores, we're not seeing any differences.
Interesting question for you. Something I experienced out in the field while hunting with a biologist on a rabbit hunt, and we were hunting in an area that had both cottontails and swamp rabbits, and he was talking about how swamp rabbits tend to like to go on a log up
That
off
is
the
true.
ground.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit. I think this is really fascinating. Tell me a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
the old cane cutter or swamp rabbit. We have those out in western Kentucky. They will. They kind of have latrine sites, kind of like otters, will also go to the same area. They'll go up on logs and do their business up there for some reason. Apparently they like it up this way. Hey, we have to use a toilet. They want to use a toilet
They'll
too,
find
I
a lay
guess,
down
so.
and I'll hop right up on it and go.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Now, if the question was about deer, and we're talking about bucks and does, and we're talking about deer, can you tell the difference between a buck and a doe by its dropping?
In most cases, no.
It's a young deer and a buck.
You might be able to tell age or, but it's as far as male and female, not by the shape.
Okay, all right. Michael Connor's Facebook question, is it legal to put a ladder stand up on public land? I guess that public land's a very broad term.
Sure, I'm assuming they're talking about WMA, so I'll address the question to WMA. So you can put ladder stands up as long as you don't use any type of nail spikes, anything that's going to permanently damage the tree. And if you're hunting on WMAs, you need to also make sure you label your deer stand with your name and address as well.
Okay. Let's see here. Here's a question about who needs a license from Roger in Meade County. He wants to know if a landowner who does not live on the land have to purchase a hunting license.
Sorry, could you repeat
So
that?
if you own a piece of property but you don't live on the property,
Right.
do you need to buy a hunting license?
If you own the land and you're a resident of Kentucky, no, you do not have to have a hunting license for
Okay.
that. You're license exempt.
Okay, but it doesn't matter if you live
Right.
or not.
So
You're
if you
the
live in
owner.
Indiana and own property in Kentucky, then you are not licensed.
Or any other state.
Right.
Not just any-
Right. Just any other. That was just an example.
Illinois, come on in.
Right.
So as long as you live in the state and you own the
Correct.
property, you're
You are license exempt. Yes, sir.
Okay. Eric from Hardin County wants to know if John can speak to the predation caused by feral cats. Is there any data on this available?
That's a really good question, and I appreciate the question. That's a significant issue, not just for small game, but for birds, all kinds of small mammals, skinks, you name it, little lizards. I mean, cats eat everything. They are a top-class predator, and we certainly want to see cats indoors is where they belong. We don't collect data, unfortunately, on that. There are data sets out there and estimates of the literally billions of wildlife that are killed by feral cats annually. It's a significant problem that needs some public awareness and response, but it's a tough issue. A lot of people have a place in their hearts for those cats. With feral colonies and spade and neuter programs, we really want them off the landscape. That's really not the solution that, from a wildlife sense, that we're looking for. So that was a really good question.
All right, Rick from Kenton County, he said he is disabled and cannot pull his bow back. Wants to know if he can use a crossbow anytime during archery season.
Yes, he can.
And what if you're over the age of 65? Does that affect that as well?
Right. If you're over the age of 65 or a youth, they fixed it where this year's new change where you can use a crossbow during all of archery season.
Okay.
And if he's under 65 and got that disabled license, you can also, if you've got any type of, something that's keeping you from being able to use a regular bow like he does, you need to, there's exemption forms online. You go to our website, print them off, and have your medical doctor fill that out that you are exempt, and you can use your crossbow during those seasons.
Okay. Chris from Jefferson County wants to know extra doe tags for zone 1, 2, and 3, and how many extra doe tags can they get?
So, I'm assuming they're talking about the additional deer permit. And so your statewide is going to get you 4, and then from there, each additional deer permit gets you 2 deer. And then you just need to pay attention to what zone you're hunting, and we restrict the number of does that you can take in a zone.
The very next question is dealing with a very similar situation. Lee Russ from Walton wants to know how many does that they can take on their permit as a senior. So he's a senior over 65. It's the same thing.
Yeah, they've got it all.
So you got 4 with essentially it's a sportsman's license is what you get as a senior, right? So you have 4, and depending on what zone you're in, you can buy additional deer permits if you're hunting the appropriate zone, and each one's 2, right?
Correct.
Right, yeah. But the senior license does come with an additional permit already on it, so they can kill 6 deer.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that. So
Right.
you literally have 6 tags as long as the zone allows it, you can take on your one purchase.
That's correct.
Fantastic. Tim from Campbell County, can you use a crossbow for turkey during bow season if you're over the age of 65?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Spencer from Morgan County, can a person who is disabled use a bow or a crossbow during the whole deer season, which we've talked about this?
Yes. And just to make sure everybody knows, if you're under the age of 65 and you've got the disabled license, that doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, yeah, I can use a crossbow. What you need to do is, if you've got something where you need to use a crossbow, you need to go online, get that exemption form, and have your medical doctor fill that out. But once you turn 65, then you don't need that exemption, and you can just use the crossbow during all of archery season.
Okay. Hey, we've got all kinds of ways we're taking questions here. We're taking them via Facebook at KY Afield. We're taking them on Instagram. You can give us a call, and we've got a new way that we're going to start asking questions, and we're going to allow you to submit your question to us and have you on air ask one of our experts here your question. We've got our first question up right now.
Is it true that there will be a bait ban if CWD is detected in Kentucky?
That question was from Brandon Williams of Shelby County, and he wants to know if there's going to be a bait ban if we have CWD confirmed in Kentucky.
So good question. I'll reference our show on November the 2nd as well. But to get directly to it, it depends on where you are. So If you are in the area where we detect the disease, we'll establish a management zone around that, and we will ban baiting in that management zone. But if you live in in a county that's not in the management zone, there won't be a change in baiting.
Okay. Donna from Henderson, Kentucky wants to know if there's any confirmed cases of HD, stands for hemorrhagic disease, in Henderson County, Kentucky.
Good question. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but we do have a fantastic resource online. So if you get on our website, there's a place where you can look for hemorrhagic disease or EHD, and we have a map where we show where all the reports are, where we've confirmed the disease this year and where we haven't. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Just get on there and check that out.
Kelly from Johnson County. Hey, now this is a good question. Because people think, hey, deer season, you get on the edge of the field and you kill you a deer. Well, sometimes deer patterns change throughout the year dramatically. Kelly wants to know any advice for deer hunting right now. So I'm assuming that they're either muzzleload hunting or archery hunting. This time of year, we're live. So today, if you were going to go get in a deer stand, what type of food source or cover would you be looking to hunt?
Well, you hit it for me, food source. I'm going to try to find some sort of acorn, some sort of nut that's falling on the ground. Green field, nobody's got green fields at this point. It's been too dry, so that's out of the question. But, I would find acorns, preferably a white oak if it's dropping. I know where we have acorns in the state, it's been pretty good. So that's what I'd be at right now.
Yeah, I'll add to that because we did the mass survey this year, and food's going to be an issue this year. It's going to be a great year to hunt. Gabe was spot on with white oak, but another one to target if you happen to have it in your hunting ground is beech. We have a pretty good beech crop this year, and when there's beech, it is a magnet. So whether you're squirrel, turkey, deer, whatever, that is a highly preferred natural food source. If you have beech, it's great. White oak, definitely number 2, but white oak's pretty low, so if you have a white oak, it's going to be a good spot. Red's out there a little spotty. Deer should be moving. Turkey should be moving. Find the food, find the game.
It's really interesting. You get out there every single year and people start going to their favorite fields that they put their food plots in, and they put trail cameras up and they get their binoculars out and they start glassing the field and they see all these deer. Because that time of year, they rush to the fields, right? When the nuts start falling, patterns change pretty fast, don't they? And the same thing for elk. We deal with that with elk every single year we go on an elk hunt. You have to know what the food source is, and if it's an oak tree, they very well may be hiding in there and not coming out very much.
I mean, it doesn't really matter what you put on the ground. I mean, they're going to go to Mother Nature first, and when those acorns hit the ground, you just can't draw them off of that.
Yeah. So that's what you'd be hunting. Is any tips? Any tips is get in between the bedding areas and the oak trees, right?
Yeah, my biggest tip was go. That's half the issue. Is we need every person that's an able-bodied hunter to go hunting. We have a fantastic resource in this state, so better opportunity than now.
Yeah, fantastic. Miles from Anderson County said he just turned 65, and this is his first year eligible for a senior license. He wants to know how to get it. It's actually really simple, isn't it?
Yeah, once he turns 65, he's good to go. So he's got his date of birth on there. He can go to anywhere we sell licenses and buy that.
So just go anywhere you bought your license last year,
right.
or online, and
right.
your date.
You can get on the website, or they've got to go to our website, and they've also got a list of places that sell license. But anywhere you can buy a license, you can get his senior license.
Okay. John Baird, I think it says the 9th. So there's some history in this family. Instagram question. He wants to trap on public lands, and he said he has the form filled out. When do I turn that in, and how can I find the form? He said apparently he knows he has to turn a form in.
Right, so that's a really good question because a lot of people don't know that there is a form that you have to fill out to hunt, or to trap on public land. So what he needs to do, if he's got that form filled out, we have a list on our website. Just he needs to contact the WMA manager and see when and how he needs to turn that in.
Okay. Bryce from Facebook wants to know, has there been any deer found in Kentucky with CWD?
Easy one. No, sir. We've not found CWD in the state. But the question I'll just clear up, a lot of people get CWD confused with a lot of other diseases, hemorrhagic disease or HD. We are experiencing an outbreak in Kentucky this year, so we are getting EHD deer deaths this year.
Gayla, a Facebook question, wants to know if they can pick up roadkill turkey or deer. Is there a law that prohibits that?
So that's a really good question, and basically it comes back to whether it's season or not, because there's a law that says that you can't possess raw fur out of season. So if it's in season, you can pick it up, but you need to contact your local dispatch or conservation officer and let them know what you're doing.
Jennifer from Facebook says she has a fox and a hawk that's killing her chickens. Wants to know if it's legal to kill them on private property.
Sure, if she owns the property, she has the absolute right to protect her property, so she can kill the fox, but the hawk she cannot because raptors are protected by the federal government. So yes on the fox, no on the hawk, and that applies to all types of birds, raptors, hawks, owls, that type of thing.
Okay. Randy from Marshall County wants to know if the coyote population in the state of Kentucky is out of control. If so, what can we do to change that? You're a small game guy. Tell me.
Yeah, we can talk about coyotes, I guess. They're definitely abundant. I wouldn't ever use the term out of control. Nature has its own way of establishing balance. Actually, coyotes are very territorial species, so they do a pretty good job of policing themselves in many ways. Actually, sometimes people trying to fix the situation can make it worse. If you kill the alpha male and female that are dominating a territory, you could release juvenile or younger coyotes that can cause more problems potentially. So, not that we don't encourage people to harvest them if they have an interest in doing so. It's perfectly legal to do. To do it as a management technique that's going to change population density is highly unlikely. Mm-hmm. For example, out west, they use helicopter gunning to shoot them during the fawning period. They recover right back to pre-shooting densities very, very quickly. Their reproduction actually increases as their density reduces, which is nature's balance. So, so it's an opportunity for people to take advantage of, but to think that we're going to go out and control them, and we're just likely not going to do that through regulated hunting. They're going to regulate themselves through the balance of nature.
All right. Sean, this is a Facebook question. How does a license exempt 11-year-old check a deer? This is kind of an interesting question because when are you required to have a deer tag? At what age?
Once you turn 12 to 15, you have to have a junior hunting license.
So at 11, you're not required to have a license, but if you harvest a deer, you still must check that animal.
Absolutely.
Tell us how that happens, because I've been asked this question before. Somebody said, hey, I don't have to have a license, but how do I check Junior's deer here?
Right, so you will tail check it just the way that you would tail check it if you had a license. You call the 1-800 number to tail check it. You would fill out a harvest log just the way you would if you had a hunting license, so you get you an index card or something and actually fill that harvest log out before you move the animal. And then by midnight that night, you need to call it in. And you tail check it just the same way you would, and you click the option, I think it's option 1, and you just check it in under statewide hunting license.
Biggest thing that I can point out is know that kid's social, because you're going to need to know that social number. So have that if you've taken a youth going hunting, make sure either they know it or you've got it to where you can enter it and get that record in correctly.
And the prompt on there, when it says, hey, if you're checking a deer, you go in, you push 1, you do the county code or whatever, and then it says if you're checking this deer on a statewide or
right.
A statewide or a youth under the age of 12 license.
Yeah, it tells you.
So that's your cue. That's what you're doing. You're checking one in on a youth under the age of 12, that license, and that's where you go and you do it just as you would if they were over 12.
Absolutely. I think they get nervous because it says hunting license, but yes, that's your option because it says or.
Randall, Facebook, wants to know if the 1 buck limit is per calendar year or license year. Randall's been thinking.
I like Randall. Yeah.
He's trying to get in there.
Where was he at? We got to find where he's at. Keep an eye on Randall.
He's on Facebook.
Oh, we've narrowed it down to like 1 million Randalls.
So season.
So it's a season. So archery season goes beyond January 1. That doesn't give you a second buck.
Correct. So September to January. That's 1 buck in that time frame.
Yeah. All right. This is Gary from Ohio. If he lives in Ohio and owns property in Kentucky, can he hunt with no license or on that property that he owns?
I think we talked about that a little bit earlier. So no. If he's a resident of Ohio and owns property in Kentucky, he still has to buy that non-resident hunting license.
All right, here we have a HD or hemorrhagic disease question from Layton in Nicholas County. It says, in regards to hemorrhagic disease, can you flesh out what it means for hunters when HD affects local populations? You mentioned that the deer population being okay from the current HD outbreak. It's not at the local scale. So apparently, and this is an interesting question because when you manage in the deer herd, you're pretty much doing it on a statewide level. He may have a piece of property that could have been affected pretty severely.
Absolutely. We know HD can do that, so we manage at the county level. But what I tell folks is you're the managers of the places you hunt, so you're going to know more about it than what we are. And HD can be very specific in a drain, and you can have one drainage where it can literally take every deer, and you can hop over the hill or the mountain and go to another drainage and it not affect any. So what I tell folks is if you've experienced a lot of HD deaths on your property, just hold back. Maybe not take all the deer that you normally would, maybe go somewhere else and hunt, but you have to make that decision for yourself. We do know that can be pretty severe in places, and some places it can be light. But when I say not a big impact, I mean that at the county level for most places.
And you make a really good point when you talk about managing your own property. People call and they get really bent out of shape sometimes when some rules and regulations have changed that either allows you additional deer or less deer. And the simple fact is, we're talking about the land that the department owns in wildlife management areas. Yes, the rules apply, but you can make the rules as strict or as loose on your property as long as you're within the framework of the regs as you'd like, right?
Right. So we, at least with whitetail, we want to try to be as liberal as we can with our allocations. And if you have something on your property that makes you feel that you don't have those numbers, you can't sustain that harvest level, then you can be more conservative. If you don't want to take 6 deer and only take 2, that's just the requirement you and the people you allow to hunt. So by all means, we encourage that. We want you to be that good steward of the resource.
And because on a senior license, every person's getting six deer. That doesn't mean 6 deer are going to be harvested by a senior. What are the numbers? On average, how many deer are harvested versus how many tags? Very few people take more than 2, do they?
Right, yeah. I mean, we have 300 and 350,000 deer hunters in this state, and we kill 100, 125,000, 150,000 deer on a very high year. Average successful hunter shoots 1.3 deer, and that's been a pretty consistent number through time for the last decade and a half. So we might have 8 or 10 permits in our pocket, but most people are only shooting 1 or 2.
And what percentage of people took more than 6 deer last year? I mean,
0.0005.
you're talking handfuls, right?
78% of our hunters take 1 deer.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the majority. It's just taking a few.
So manage your property the way you see fit, just as long as you meet the rules and regulations that are in reg for managing whitetail in the state.
More times than not, we need people to shoot more than less, really, when it comes to managing their farm right, just in these hemorrhagic disease situations.
How much does hemorrhagic disease have to do with population? I mean, do you see hemorrhagic disease in higher population areas?
I mean, yes, but just because you're going to have more deaths because you have more deer there, so it's a little more noticeable. But when you think about 2017, so 2 years ago, we had it in eastern Kentucky where our lowest deer density is, and it really, we lost a lot of deer there. So it just takes longer to recover, but it doesn't really matter. We've got it all over the state.
John from Facebook, what is the best thing to do if dogs are running your deer? Put your dogs up, huh?
Yeah, talk to your neighbors.
No, but that is a serious problem. Because I mean, let's say that I teased this question, but it is a serious problem. If you are a deer hunter and you get off a weekend or 2 a year, and you get up there in your stand with great excitement, planning on harvesting a deer, and you've got dogs running deer through at 80 mile an hour, it can be frustrating.
Pretty frustrating. I've been there, done that.
So it might be, if you know that you've got some neighbors that free range their dogs and let them run around quite a bit, it might be a good idea to give them a call and let them know, hey, this is my plan is to do this hunting, and if being real nice and asking nice very well may get you in that stand without having that problem early on. So I would definitely recommend that. Barry from Ballard County, if you have a tree stand on public property with your name on it, can you tell the person who's in your stand it's time to get out?
Well, that's a really good question.
It hasn't happened to me yet, but I've been in their stands before.
But I think I would ask them, hey, man, this is my stand. I've got my name on it, because it does say in regulation that you can't use a old or existing stand, and you've got to mark it with your name and your address, so you're kind of liable for it. So I think I certainly would. And if they don't, then you may want to contact a conservation officer.
I mean, how similar is that to pulling somebody's jug that's got their name on it? I mean, it seems like it's. I mean, is it against the law to pick someone's jug up that's got their name on it? I mean,
well, I think there may be some theft or something right there. I don't know if I've come into that either, but I think there's.
Well, if you put the jug back and keep the fish, or no.
So the fact is, I mean, it's pretty much it's understood that if there's a stand there, it's not your stand, it's got somebody's name on it. You don't have permission for that individual to be in the stand.
Right, yeah, I certainly would ask them to move and then contact your local conservation officer if they want to give you any type of disagreement or fight or anything like that.
And I'll tell you, I'm a pretty trusting individual, but if I haven't spoke to you about your stand and know what condition it's in, I'm not getting in it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that can be a very, very, very dangerous situation. There might be a reason why that person's not in that stand anyhow.
Right.
So I wouldn't be climbing up a deer stand if I don't know whose it is and I don't know the condition of that stand. It could be a very dangerous situation. Tom from Facebook, when you call in a buck and ask for antler width, what if you don't have a tape measure?
So good question. You know, that's a prompt that we're telling you you're going to need to know that. The biggest thing is we're looking for that 11-inch number. So is it the spread of the outside spread of that antler deer less than 11 inches or greater than 11 inches? And the best rule of thumb, if you don't have a tape measure, is find a sheet of paper. That's what we tell people. Use a sheet of paper, get out the hunting guide. Sheet of paper is 8.5 by 11. Turn that thing a little sideways and see if it fits in or out, and you've got it at that
Hopefully
point.
you need 2 or 3 sheets of paper.
Yeah, I mean, I want like 5 spread it out there, but yeah, for sure.
Dollar bill, 6 inches, right? So
Yeah.
you could at least got
There's
a couple of cues that you might be able to use that if you don't have anything else. So.
Yeah. You know what? We haven't gotten a ton of small game questions. I'm really excited about the opportunity we have here in the state of Kentucky with some of our wildlife management areas. We have a lot of different things at tonight's show. You've noticed our desk. We've got a whole new set. Hope you like it. Let us know what you think about the set, and if you do or do not like it. We also have got a new way to submit questions. We only got a couple this time, and we look to get more in the future. So if you want to see your face and your name on Kentucky Afield and ask your question, there's an easy way to do it. You submit them via Facebook. And here's our next question that is a small game question.
My name is Phil Heiskell from Bardstown, Kentucky, and I'm concerned about the number of rabbits I'm not seeing this year. With the flood conditions and the drought, I'm just concerned that the rabbit populations are suffering. Does anybody measure small game on WMAs?
There you go.
Yeah, hey, we appreciate the question, Phil. Appreciate you being a rabbit hunter. We monitor rabbit populations annually, not specifically on WMAs. We use the mail carrier survey at the last week of July every year. We've been doing it since 1960. And we are seeing a slight uptick this year, despite he's spot on with weather. It's a big issue with small game. You need to have favorable weather conditions for reproduction. We did have a wet early spring this year. We got a very late and dry summer that continued forever, it seemed like. So it was a rough year to be a small game species out there. But we have an 8 to 10 year cycle in Kentucky as well, and we are finally kind of climbing out of the bottom of that cycle. We're working our way up. So for the next 3 to 4 to 5 years, you should start seeing annual growth just through that cycle in Kentucky when it comes to rabbit numbers. Specifically on WMAs, you know, those are heavily hunted, so keep in mind that those rabbits are always pressured. They run them as soon as squirrel season opens, when they can legally have a dog off leash. We've got people running rabbits on WMAs. And that may be something we need to look at in the future. It's just minimizing the hunting opportunity for those hunters when they kind of come out in November. Those rabbits have been run for months already, particularly in years where their numbers are down a little bit. So WMAs can be challenging. I'd encourage you to go try Peabody. Very high numbers of rabbits there, almost year in, year out. 40,000 acres of public land hunting. If you don't rabbit hunt there, you're really missing out. Opportunities on other mining ground in the east too, which always hold pretty good numbers of rabbits on public areas.
I'll tell you, some of my absolute favorite hunting is rabbit hunting. It's very social.
It's so much
Listening
fun.
to
Great
the
for
dog.
kids.
It's great. You get to move around. You don't really get cold. A lot of people, because of our great deer numbers we have in the state of Kentucky, want to jump straight into hunting for deer or turkeys.
Yeah, big mistake.
Man, I'm telling you, take that kid out there, and there's nothing more exciting than hunting a kid behind a squirrel dog.
Absolutely.
And right there with that is hunting with rabbits, or hunting with beagles and chasing rabbits. So make sure you get out there and access some of the wildlife management areas and take advantage of our small game populations. You'll respect hunting a lot more when you get out there and you walk around and you get to take a couple shots, and you, as opposed to getting in a deer stand and sitting there half the year maybe for a shot, or, you know.
Right, yeah, it's very interactive, very social.
I just think passing straight to the deer is probably not the best way to get a kid. Dove hunting, something they're going to get to shoot and have a lot of engagement.
Yep.
Trey, Facebook question. Is there an estimate on black bear populations in Kentucky? This is an interesting question. I've seen a couple of black bear in Kentucky, but on the elk hunt recently, we had a really nice-sized black bear stroll right out there in front of us. Took me a couple times away from my eyes to make sure I was looking at what I was looking at. But are we keeping track with estimates of black bears here in Kentucky?
So, I mean, we are. Our bear program has been involved since we started finding bears in the state. But yes, our population is increasing. I can't really speak to the number of that size. Everybody wants a number, but I do know that it's expanding. If you're familiar with our bear program, there's been a lot of changes as far as hunting and hunting opportunity, and that's a direct result from the increasing population. So that's about all my knowledge. If anybody else wants to get on bears.
You guys ever seen a bear out in the wild? Here in Kentucky?
I haven't seen one in Kentucky, I don't think yet, but I've seen them in other places many times.
Yeah. Many times here.
Yeah. John in Lexington, can a person hunt other frogs besides bullfrogs during the frog season in Kentucky? What is the rules and regulations on frogs? Anybody know?
Sure, you can't. There is a season for bullfrogs, obviously, but you can get other frogs and you can kill them as well. There is a limit on how many you can keep actually alive, but if you want to go out and if you're just gigging them, then no, you can just do that whenever.
Okay. Randy in Breathitt County, if I'm out running my rabbit dogs outside of the hunting season, so he's training dogs, can he carry a sidearm for protection against coyotes or bears?
Yes, absolutely. So I think that's a good question. I get it a lot. So he can always carry something for his protection, and we got that new law in the state of Kentucky that says that you don't have to have a concealed carry, so he doesn't have to be open carry and also concealed carry.
Okay. Kelly from Johnson County, are you allowed to have a pet deer? If so, how much and what is involved in obtaining a permit?
So pet deer, to answer that question, depends, I guess. There is a mechanism in order to have a pet deer. You have to be permitted with the department, also permitted with the Department of Agriculture prior to obtaining the deer. You cannot take a deer from the wild and keep it as a pet. Even if you were to get those proper permits from both the Fish and Wildlife and Ag, that's still not an option. It has to come from a captive facility. So there is a mechanism in place, and if that's something you're interested in, just call us and we can walk you through that process.
Just taking a deer in and making a pet out of it and taking it into your garage and your living room because it's fun, it's just not a good idea, though, is it?
No, not a good idea, nor is it legal.
Nor is it legal, yeah.
That's right.
Mark from Shelby County says, in Shelby County, what is the phone number that they call to report a poacher?
So you can always call 1-800-25-ALERT, and that will get you to a dispatcher that can get you in contact with us. So 1-800-25-ALERT, or you can call your local KSP post.
And that's throughout the state. That's
right.
That's not a county or an area. It's
right. You call 1-800-25-ALERT, they will get you to where you need. And if you happen to know your local state police post, call them, or 911. You can call the. I would rather you call the 1-800-25-ALERT though.
Okay. Charlie from Campbell County says, if he's rabbit hunting with a shotgun, do you have to give the game warden 3 shells to check their gun to see if it's plugged or not?
Sure.
First off, talk about plugging your gun and why you have to have a gun plugged, and what animal species that you have to have a plug gun for.
So if you're hunting with a shotgun, pretty much anything you're hunting with a shotgun other than deer, you have to have your shotgun plugged. So that means it's only capable of holding 3 shells, 2 in the chamber, and 1 in the actual gun. So whenever we check, and that's where he gets that question. A lot of times we will say, if you've got go ahead and unload your gun and hand us 3 shells. That's allowing us to check to see if it's got a plug in it.
Okay. And he's asking, are they allowed to refuse to hand you 3 shells?
No, he needs to hand us the 3 shells.
Yeah. It's a pretty good idea that you're not going to just say, dang, you got me. I mean, if he won't hand you the shells, there's a pretty good chance you got a reason to think there's a reason that he's not handing you the shells.
Right. So he would be impeding with an investigation, I guess, at that point.
Okay.
He needs to hand us the 3 shells.
Kenny from Nelson County. This isn't a question, this is just a statement. It just says, armadillos are everywhere.
Whoa, I don't know about that, but I've heard definitely they're invading in far western Kentucky for sure. So we are seeing them work north. So
yeah, and I have seen them pretty far into more central Kentucky, and
yeah, I think they're marching this way.
I've seen them hit on the side of the road, so I have seen them there. Have you been seeing them?
I have. I seen them one in Cumberland County not long ago.
Oh, wow.
So it is definitely happening. They're coming. They're not being stocked by the Department of Fish and Wildlife.
No helicopters, nothing like that.
We are not bringing
we
our
don't really
goats
want
to
them,
Kentucky.
I think
But they
they're
got
coming
4
on their own.
legs and a nose, and they're going to go to where food's
That's
at, and so it could be happening. Daniel from Bath County wants to know if he can legally use a crossbow during turkey shotgun season. This is a good question, and I want to recommend that people take advantage of our fall shotgun season. That's something that a lot of people, just for whatever reason, they want to communicate with that turkey and call them in. But turkey hunting in the fall is a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So yeah, a lot of people don't use that. Make sure if you're when you're hunting, we talked about it earlier, make sure you don't have those corn piles out. But in the fall, you are allowed to have the 4 turkeys, and you can only kill 2 with the shotgun, and you can always kill them with lesser means.
So if it's shotgun season and you want to take one with archery, then by all means. But if you take one with a bow, you still only allow 1 a day regardless of the means of take.
1 a day, correct.
So 1 a day, you're allowed 4, but you're only allowed 1 a day. If you go kill one with lesser means with a bow and arrow during shotgun season, you still can't go out and shoot one with a shotgun that day, right?
Correct.
All right. Looks like JR from Whitley County has his property posted. What can he do to stop people from hunting illegally on it?
Sure. So he's posted it. That's always the first route we want to go. And if you're still having trouble, contact your local conservation officer. See if they can figure out who's doing it. If you know who's doing it, then you can go and contact them. But that's something that is illegal. So contact your local conservation officer, and they can help you out.
All right. Mike from Crittenden County, are they allowing? Looks like it's a brand or some type of air rifles for hunting this year. PCP. I'm not sure what type of air rifle that is, but what are air rifles allowed for hunting any game species?
Right, for deer, I think is a 35 caliber. And it's got to have like an external air tank.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for deer, it's 35 caliber or larger external air tank, and it's considered a firearm. So you're going to use it during that firearm season.
Right.
Was it deer specific?
It wasn't deer specific.
You can use it for small game. 177 caliber, 20 or 25 caliber are legal with pellets, so you can use them for harvesting small game as well.
Okay. I have done some pellet hunting for squirrels, and I tell you what, they've got these things where they really shoot accurately.
Well, they've definitely improved dramatically over the years. There's a lot of air rifles out there capable now, so it's a lot of fun.
And we've also done a couple shows. Taking bullfrogs also can be done with the air rifle, and it's a way that you can sometimes get to those frogs in methods where you can't get a gig out there. Now you want to be able to retrieve them, but we've showcased that on the show as well. Areas you can't get a gig there, you can take them with an air rifle. It's a lot of fun.
And it's a lot quieter than the 22.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Much quieter. Yeah.
A little safer too.
Yeah, absolutely.
David Peacock from Clinton County wants to know what they can do to try to get more public dove fields in South Central Kentucky.
I can answer a little bit towards that. We are the federal government just came out with a new Farm Bill program that's about to be released. The department will be applying for, called the Volunteer Public Access Program, and those funds can be used for us to expand our dove field lease program. So we'll be submitting a grant here in the next month or so, trying to get federal funds to generate more access for public dove fields, and that we'll work statewide, of course, to expand those, but certainly Southeast Kentucky would be part of that program, and hopefully we get a grant, and I would expect to see more fields if we can get it. So
I will tell you that the dove fields that we do have in the state of Kentucky, I know we work really hard to try to get those people to enroll their properties for public dove hunting. Man, they get a lot of use, don't they?
Oh, they get hammered for the first 2 days. It's some of the most heavily hunted ground in the state for a 2-day period, and certainly they're open longer than that, but we have that big pulse on that opening first couple of days of the season, and people have a lot of fun out there and kill a lot of doves. And
Dove season is one of the first hunting seasons that comes in the fall. I guess it is the very first one, right, before squirrel season?
Squirrel season's first.
Is it first? Okay.
Yeah.
So that people are just anxious and ready to get out there.
Yep.
You get a day where the weather is nice, and they're going to be packed. But they're a lot of fun. Still birds to be taken out there.
Yep.
Teddy from Scott County, what is the closest WMA that a person can muzzleloader hunt on? So he's talking about close to Georgetown. What WMA has opportunities?
Clay has one.
It depends on
it. If it's early, that you can hunt clay early, so that one's reasonable from Georgetown. The one that I can think of early. I don't know if there's any other, Gabe, that are closer to that. for early at least.
Yeah, clay WMA is going to be your closest for early muzzleloader. Late muzzleloader, most of all of the areas close by are open. So veterans, if you're a Georgetown resident, it's going to be close.
Okay.
That you could use as muzzleloader late season.
Okay. Gary, it's a Facebook question. Can you use your phone to show your conservation officer your license, or do you need to actually have the paper copy? This is a really interesting question because, you know, it seems like we're carrying more and more and more stuff. Who would have ever thought that everywhere you go, you'd have this big thing of keys and a cell phone on you everywhere you go and your wallet, and people are trying to minimize and make it easier. Is that allowed to do that?
Sure, I will say that most all conservation officers are good with you just showing it on the phone. We live in a day where everything's on your phone. You can buy it on your phone and actually just take a screenshot. And I'd just like to say real quick, for everybody that's buying their license on their phone, and then I will go ahead and hit that print app and then take a screenshot of it, and then I'm good with that if you show a picture of it.
Okay. So we haven't really changed the regs. Technology's moving faster than...
Right. The reg has not caught up to it, so by letter of the law, you need to actually have that paper license, and it needs to be filled out and signed. So most conservation officers are good with it, but you might want to print that out just in case.
I will tell you, if you go on your My Profile, which if you own a license in the state of Kentucky, you have a My Profile. If you log in there, let's say you printed out your license and then you take your hip survey, all right, or you put in for a quota hunt, and let's say you got a sandhill crane permit or a deer quota hunt opportunity, that thing updates immediately. So you can always go right back to your My Profile and capture that, because it's going to add that hip survey number and all that right onto your license. If you already printed it, you can't go back and add it to already printed unless you handwrite it on there. But you can always go back and reprint your license with all your up-to-date information. If you harvest an animal, you can go put it right on there, can't you?
Yeah, and it's as soon as you harvest, as soon as you tail check it, it's on there. And
you got a whole log for your whole life.
It's awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah, that My Profile is a really good thing to use.
Rafe from Marion County, is there any liability between the landowner and the hunter when hunting? If so, where can a person get a copy of the document? So what is the law of, if you are a landowner and someone comes and says, hey, I'd really like the opportunity to hunt your property, what are the liabilities to that landowner to allow someone to hunt?
Sure. So basically, the way the law is written, it says that you can either have written or verbal permission, so you don't have to have any type of contract. But I'm pretty certain there's also a thing in regulation that I guess gives a break to the landowner, says that he's not liable for anybody who's actually hunting on that property. So they're not held. So don't get so caught up in thinking, oh, I don't want to let this guy hunt on my property because I'm afraid he's going to do this or this or this. Well, there is written in the law, so it kind of gives a clearance there.
Okay.
The biggest key with that, though, is that it's fee exempt. So if you charge, you're not covered under that statute. But if you offer that for free, you're completely covered under state law. That you're not liable as a landowner.
So if someone asks you to hunt, you can go in there and you can hunt their property. But if someone comes in and says, hey, I'll let you hunt my property and you lease it for X amount of dollars, and I'm going to provide you a deer stand, and you get in the deer stand and fall through, then that may be a whole other game.
As soon as you take the first dollar as the landowner, you now have accepted money, and that protection no longer applies.
Okay. Melanie, this is a Facebook question, wants to know which wildlife management area has the best population of swamp rabbits. We talked about swamp rabbits a while ago. Melanie is ready to go get some swamp rabbits.
Let's see, the best population of swamp rabbits. I know we have some on Higgins and Henry. I know there's been some on Ballard. Those are two of the ones that jump out of my head the most. Clark's River National Wildlife Refuge probably has some as well. So those are a couple, three. I think Peabody even has some, if I'm not mistaken, but I wouldn't use that as a first choice. I'd hit those other three.
If you wanted to go and try to go after, this different species of rabbit, I understand we got 3 different species of rabbits in the state of Kentucky, right?
Yeah, we do. Yep.
And if you wanted to go and try to do that, how far west does the swamp rabbit come?
Far west?
Yeah.
They're west of...
How far east? I'm sorry.
65 and west. Just for a rule of thumb, once you start getting west of 65, but you're looking for wetland areas. They're a wetland rabbit.
So then you have
you're looking for swamps and wetland areas. And if you're looking at the Appalachian cottontail, that's Generally, it's in the Knobs region of Kentucky, kind of that loop around central Kentucky where the knobs are, and also in East Kentucky up in the mountains.
Okay.
But it's very difficult to tell. You have to look at sutures on their skull to see if you have an Appalachian cottontail, and you'll have to send that in for us to go look at.
Yeah.
It's very minor difference. So the swamper is substantially different, about twice the size, and not that nice cottontail. So.
Yeah, they're very different, yeah. Buddy from Perry County, why in firearm season, I guess they're talking about deer, can you not wear broken blaze orange like a camo orange pattern?
For safety. I mean, in most cases, that solid orange is going to be broken when you're in the stand and in the trees and in limbs. So when you get a broken orange pattern and then you put it in the environment, in the tree, in the woods, it's just even harder to see. So it's really a safety mechanism that we have in place for our hunters.
All right, James from Johnson County, can my 14-year-old grandson hunt on my property without a license?
So no, it is, that exemption is for landowners and their dependent children, meaning that they still live at home. You file them on your taxes, that type of thing. That being a grandchild, he would have to get a junior hunt license and a junior deer permit.
One more question. We're getting close. We really appreciate all of your submissions. We've got a whole bunch of people who have called in today. There's all kinds of ways you can submit your questions. I really want to thank you for calling. I hope that you've enjoyed our new format for the show, and I really want to encourage you to get out there and participate. This is the absolute best time of year, in my opinion, to live here in the state of Kentucky. Hey, we're not talking about fishing, but the fishing's great, the hunting's good, rabbit season's right around the corner, quail season's right around the corner. There's so many fantastic opportunities. And if you want to know more about CWD, make sure you join us in 2 weeks. That'll be November the 2nd, and we're going to have a whole 30-minute show dedicated to learning more about chronic wasting disease. It's not here in Kentucky. We'll tell you more about what we're doing to keep it out.